Mikasa Sukasa. You Eddie, right?
Yeah.
Look like Eddie Guerrero, man. You like to watch wrestling?
Yep.
Have you ever watched wrestling? On weed? That's the way to see it, man! It's rock!
So here we are, Wild Nation. Supposedly I had it still on mute, but like I said, right now is April 11th. You know what time it is. On today's episode, we're talking about Tony Khan versus the Bots. What's going on with the NXT Tag Team titles, as well as what's going on with Roman Reigns in the Unification title. Shout out to everybody that is in the building. Of course, we got Kid Get Money, because that's what he does. Also, Gruss, the supervillain of the IWC, is in the building. If you can't make it live to this, make sure to leave a comment. And I would definitely get back to you on what we're talking about on today's episode. But first, let's get to Tony Khan versus the bots. On Friday, after the Wild Nation News show, Tony Khan took to Twitter to state this. Shout out to Gruss, who says time to smack the mic like it was Chris Rock. But this is what Tony Khan said on Twitter on Friday. He stated, an independent study has confirmed that much of the staunch anti-AEW online community aren't real individuals. It's a staff running thousands of accounts and an army of bots to signal boost them. Look closely, these aren't real people. Who paid for such a wildly expensive thing? He went on to say their boiler room staff is going to be working overtime on Friday, and I love it. And then he followed that up. I forgot to put this up. And he followed that statement up with this. He stated, ever wonder why so much of the activity of these accounts is retweets and replies? Like, who actually has 80% of their activity as straight up retweets? As Girl says, Tony Mark Khan. Yeah, that's definitely what he is. While discussing Tony Khan's claim that most of the anti-AEW sentiments online comes from an army of bots, Wrestling Observer Live's Brian Alvarez said Khan really did commission an actual study, and they did tell him that they had discovered this. Alvarez is under the impression there is more to come because the study is not complete yet. A few WWE superstars and AEW wrestlers and former AEW wrestlers poke fun at it at Tony's tweets, and those include Becky Lynch, who stated, an independent study confirmed that much of the staunch anti-Becky and arena booers aren't real individuals, and staff running thousands of AI and army of bots. Look closely, these aren't real people. Who paid for such a wildly expensive thing? Joey Janela went to write, it's me, Tony. It was me all along. And Eva Uno also wrote, an independent study has confirmed that much of the staunch anti-Eva Uno online community aren't real, as the staff running thousands of accounts and army of bosses signal boost them. Look closely, these people aren't real. But there's one person that wasn't fond of Tony Khan stating in any of this, and that was one former WWE superstar that took it serious, and that's on a post on Instagram. Adam Scherr, aka formerly known as Braun Strowman, wrote this in the comments when somebody who was told that he was a bot took to Instagram and was like, that's not the case. You know, I just have some issues with AEW. And then under the comments, Braun wrote, the person that was called Baron Smarks, he's like, Baron Smarks is indeed a bot, confirmed by independent studies. And then Adam Scherr 99, who is Braun Strowman's, wrote, why is there no face to palm emoji? This is the same guy that pays the dirt sheets and says his wrestlers are free to do whatever but blackball them from CYN shows. Why? Because we're a fucking threat. And then he went on to say, blacklisted when somebody stated, another true Strowman hit back at the notion that CYN promotion is considered wrestling's blacklist. And he said, blacklisted. That's why so many people want to work with us, and both our shows had tons of AEW talent backstage watching. We are the new option. You've been warned. All right, so there's a lot going on. Shout out to Nigel, Wild Nation in the building. Kid Get Money says Tony needs to put that energy into my Jaguars offseason. We need Tyreek Hill. I would have sold AEW for a Jaguar Super Bowl run. And Gross writes, Tony needs to hire real general managers for his business. He also needs to get off the internet. This is what I would say about this. Wrestling, especially when it comes to online, especially the IWC community, is very tribal. Are there bots? Yes. But I also feel like if you were to do a study going a different way, would there be a majority of bots towards that is over AEW fans? And I would say yes. I run the majority of the Wild Nation Twitter. And when I look at that Twitter account, a lot of it is WWE hate. There is some people that don't like AEW, but a lot of it's WWE hate. Some of them are real people, but there are some that come around, and then I'll look and they got like 4 followers, and it, like he said, it's mostly retweets and replies talking about how somebody is. It's very tribal. It can go either way. Why do independent study when you can easily figure this out? You can easily figure this out when it comes to politics. The smaller voices do get amplified when you have bots, and that goes both ways. So to make this a thing doesn't really make sense to me. Russ says the IWC can be toxic as fuck. Don't take it to be serious. Yeah, don't take it to be serious. I mean, he could have gave me however much money he gave them, and I could have just threw out a number. I could have gave him 80% and threw that number out to him, and still would have been correct. WWE can do the same thing. I'm here. Throw the money. I got you. Because I can tell you something that almost everybody knows that are paying attention to what's going on with the internet. And it's things like this that kind of makes Tony Khan just like, as Russ said, a mark. Like, dude, just move on. Like, I also feel like he did it to make sure, like, hey, because right after he did it, he, of course, being the carny as wrestling is, went on to start promoting Rampage later that night. If you're doing this to push Rampage, I don't see it working. I don't see it helping. What helps is putting on the matches you're putting on. I mean, this week we got Samoa Joe versus Murder Grandpa Minoru Suzuki. Like, that's the stuff that we want to see. Hell, even Raw tonight has a hell of a card. Like, we want to see that competition. The stuff of going back and forth, and then being like, "Oh, we're not going back and forth." It's tiring. Tony Khan plenty times has made it known that WWE as the competition has thrown shots. That's kind of why he puts out the ratings the way he does every week. He knows what he's doing. He knows that it's competition. Yeah, y'all weren't excited the way Cody wanted to do it, but at least he was frank about it. And y'all just want to kind of, you know, keep poking the bear and then be like, "Oh, I'm surprised like things are going well." It's like y'all poked the bear all weekend and then they pulled off a pretty decent, especially night one, WrestleMania. And then y'all kind of realize, like, oh, yeah, we're big when we're doing the shit on TV, but we don't have anything that compares to WrestleMania, and we still got to build to that. And that's what y'all should probably be focusing on at the moment. Like, focus on what your WrestleMania is. Pick which one is it going to be. Is it Double or Nothing? Is it All In, All Out? Whichever one you want to call it. Which one is it? And go forward from there. But till then, these are things you don't need to be worrying about. Bots, that's not a fun thing. So, of course, says bots ruined the sneaker community, though. Yeah, they did. That's because money is tied to it. I mean, they ruined the sneaker community. They ruined anything that has to do with fashion or anything that is exclusive and you have to buy. They murdered everything. So, like, they ruin everything when it comes to that. So it is what it is when it comes to that. So can it ruin wrestling? The fans could do that themselves. Like, they don't need it. And WWE and AEW can also do it themselves as well. They don't need help from bots in IWC. That's just really how it is. Now let's move on to our next segment. The NXT vacates the tag team titles. Last Saturday, as Stand and Deliver, Nash Carter and Wes Lee of MSK won the NXT Tag Team Championships for the second time in their career. And it was short-lived because by Wednesday, WWE released Nash Carter. The move came several days after online accusations of spousal abuse by Carter's wife, Kimberly, that came through to stuff about the collapse of their marriage and things that he was doing within the marriage. But that wasn't the reason that they fired him. No, the reason why Nash got fired was because of this picture here. That's what got him fired. And because WWE has not WWE, but NXT has a history of people that kind of do certain things like that, from Seth Rollins' ex-girlfriend to Lars Sullivan And it led to them going, all right, man, you're out. And now that he's out, guess what? They have vacated the title. The current NXT Tag Team champions have relinquished the titles this Tuesday on WWE NXT. New NXT Tag Team Championship champions will be crowned. Now, if you would ask me, they shouldn't have won it in the first place. Imperium's gone, so they're out. The Creed brothers should have been the ones to win it. And then the new crew coming in from NXT UK, Pretty Dangerous. They was already kind of known that they were coming in. I get now that kind of puts them in a bind, because do you really want to put the belts on them while you're trying to build up Pretty Dangerously, and that means that they could possibly take the belts off of them. I get it. Just keep them away. Keep them away for a while, but the belt should have been on the Creed brothers that weekend. Those dudes are stars, especially the way they wrestle and how they conduct themselves. That belt should have been on them. Kid Black Money says, damn, I feel bad for his part. Yeah, I feel bad for Wesley. Like, it was, he didn't do anything. But like I was saying on last episode, when it comes to stuff like that, and it's like, dude, you have a black party. The crew that you ran with the Rascals and everything were all people of color. That picture don't look that old. You probably shaved and was like, oh, I have a Hitler mustache. There was no reason for you to take a picture of that and then send that picture to somebody. And you mostly send it in like a group chat because you thought it was funny. No. If you run around a group of people of color, don't do that. That's stupid. And then you also don't know who you're offending, because guess what? There's people of color in other organizations. And you might think it's funny, but when that picture comes out, they're like, no, that ain't funny. Out. I don't care if it's a game. That shit was serious. That shit affected my family. Out. Certain things you want to joke about it with your friends. But once you take pictures and once you have the possibility of it being online, it's not funny. And that's exactly where we are. So, it is what it is. Gruss says, this is the best for us sometimes. Yeah, I mean, on all honesty, he is the star of that team. His looks, what he does in the ring. He, it was kind of time, like it was eventually going to get to the point where he was going to have to be by himself. That's just how it is. Like, he's a great tag team wrestler, but it seems like there's possibility something bigger for him. Shout out to Camilla that's in the building. Then Gruss says, remember, Still Routers runs deep. I think it's some more to the Nash situation. You never know. Yeah, I mean, we all know the spousal abuse is what led to everything that came towards that picture. And WWE, they usually do investigations, and once those rumors came out and they were all over Twitter, they didn't do anything. It wasn't until that picture and they were like, you're out. And Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer all stated it wasn't anything to do with spousal abuse. It had really to do with the picture. But if they have any inkling that there was anything that he did that had to do with spousal abuse, then yeah, they got rid of him because they don't want anything to do with that, and no company should. It'll be interesting to see what his future is going to be. If nobody picks him up, then that means there's some truth to what was going on. And also, it could just be, we don't want anybody that thinks that's a joke, and we don't want to be running around with them. As Gruss says, picture captures moments and times, and that is damn right. Now, let's talk about what the hell is going on between the sheets in my home. Anyways, with Roman Reigns as the unified champion, according to Andrew Zarian of the Madman Pro Wrestling Podcast, we may not know what is next from Roman Reigns, and the WWE don't know either. And that's nothing new. That's just how WWE rolls. Just make it up as you go. Fake it till you make it. And Andrew Zarian on the podcast stated, as far as I know, and this is something I was told, it hasn't been decided yet on how they're doing this. Like, the concept of how they're going to do this unified title thing. I don't think they decided if he's going to be on Raw every week or every other week. Hasn't been set yet. They're working all this out right now on how they're going to play this out. Now, we all kind of know he's not holding that Raw belt for a long time. If it was to me, he will hold it till September, the same date that his dad went Cody Rhodes' dad went for the belt, Dusty Rhodes, then American Dream Daddy. When he went for the belt, and that is a Monday, that's a Monday Night Raw, have him win it that night. But there's also rumors that Braun Breaker might be the one that takes it off of Roman Reigns. That's the rumor. And it's also rumored that it might be Braun Breaker for the SmackDown Tag Team for the Universal Championship, depending on what's going on with The Rock. If you've been watching Peacocks, the Cogs of WWE, Evil, they kind of hinted that we're going towards The Rock versus Roman Reigns, and of course, The Rock wants to do it. That is just a busy man. You just never know what's going to go on, and they don't really know what's going on. They're just trying to figure it out. And also on top of that, it's like, are they going to give the belt to The Rock? That's the question. Is he going to do one more run and then retire? I have no idea. We will see, but it doesn't make sense for him to come and then lose to Roman Reigns. Actually, it does make sense because it's going to be the whole tribal chief who's really the head of the table. Roman takes the head of the table, but then you really got to build up who's going to be the person on SmackDown to take the Universal Championship, because right now it's not anybody. But I would say you got to allow Roman Reigns to hold the World Heavyweight Championship for a hot minute and then drop it. He shouldn't drop it like at WWE Backlash. It wouldn't make sense to just give it to him for him to drop it in 1 month. Let him have some feuds, but make sure you have some people that are going to be pushed up to take the belt off of him. Right now, we got Shinsuke. Good. Drew McIntyre is probably going to be up next after that. That's for the Universal Championship. Before on the Raw side, we got to find some people that can actually go against Roman Reigns and make them look good going against them. They're not going to win, but somebody that's willing to do it. So that's where we are with that. We got a little question here. It's like, is The Miz better than Cody Rhodes since The Miz is a 2-time WWE champion? I would say no. I would say no due to the fact that although, Cody has the nickname, Mr. 3 Stars, he at least puts on 3-star matches. The Miz is very iffy with his ability to put on matches. And that's another thing. Having championships doesn't qualify you being a great wrestler. Having championships just means that during that time period, during that moment, you're viable to be a champion. Because there's plenty of people that have had championship belts, and we look back and we go, why? And usually it was business reasons. Jinder Mahal, that was a business reason. There's certain people that should have never been around, and there's people that were great wrestlers that never sniffed a belt at all, or a belt of any true importance, like a heavyweight championship, like the late great Scott Hall. He should have had a major belt on him, never did. But that's just the case. And Scott Hall's better than a lot of people's favorite wrestlers. Mr. Perfect. You can go on and on. Because if somebody has championship, we can do this basketball terms. Is Robert Horry one of the greatest champions of all time, or one of the greatest players of all time? Greatest champions possibly, but is he one of the greatest players of all time? No. But he was on some teams that actually needed him, and he ended up with 7 rings. Doesn't make him great. I wouldn't put Robert Horry over LeBron. I wouldn't put him over Kobe. People that he has more rings than, but he's nowhere near there. He has more rings than Jordan, but you wouldn't put a Robert Horry over Jordan because he has that many rings. Just what it is, Gross, going back to the last conversation, he says almost would beat Roman with help from MVP to Hurt Business 2.0. Now, I would like to see that, but I think if they do that, he's not winning that. We already seen that you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. He takes out Bobby Lashley in another match, but we've already concluded that a spear could take Almost out, which then means if it's Almost versus Roman Reigns, his move is the spear. Once he gets the spear in, is over for Almost. So a few can work with them. Just doesn't mean it's going to work with, him winning the championship. That I don't see that happening. can get money versus Miz as a character is good. Miz as a wrestler, nice and safe. I don't know, but safe unless you're jumping off, unless you jump into the ropes or jumping over the ropes or jumping off the top turnbuckle to the ground to the outside. Then he's no longer safe because that man would not catch anybody. If a Cole jumped off, he wouldn't catch it either. That man does not catch anybody. But I will say this: as a character, the Miz is great. That one IC title run is probably his best run he ever had as a champion. I would say in the future he'll probably be more known for his run, that like 2-year run of him going in and out of that IC title championship contention and winning the belt. He'll probably be most known for that because that's when he was at his most complete. But you can use him for anything, and that's the reason why he's there. And he's already kind of talking about possibly retiring because a lot of people don't remember that man has almost been there for 20 years. That is crazy to think. The man went from the real world to Coral, basically chewing that man out to him doing like being a correspondent for WWE, and then the man has been there wrestling for almost 20 years. Like it's effing crazy when you think about it at the end of the day. Now, let's get to some quick hits. Tommaso Ciampa is reportedly an official member of the WWE Raw roster. Ciampa is currently in Detroit for tonight's Raw and has been called up from WWE NXT to the main roster internally, according to PW Insider. There's also the rumors flying around that he might be a part of the new stable with Edge and Damian Priest. There's a match tonight with Damian Priest versus AJ Styles. So if we see him tonight, it might be during that match, and we might start seeing the full stable coming together for that crew. Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey are both scheduled for WrestleMania Backlash next month, but according to Wrestling Observer newsletter, the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar program is considered over. So Brock is going to show back up, but we do not know who he is going against. Matt Miz Andrew Zarian mentioned that plans for Rousey include possibly tagging with Shayna Baszler. He also said that Cody Rhodes will continue his feud with Seth Rollins. So that handshake wasn't the end of it. And hey, it's going to be kind of great to see Ronda and Shayna together. And of course, if they're going to get together, they're getting those tag team titles. Hopefully then Shayna or Ronda take the belt off of Charlotte, and then they have to beef with each other. They lose the tag team belts, and then they got to face each other. And I think Shayna versus Ronda Rousey will be really, really good to watch because nothing better than best friends going at it, because they always decide to go hard because they know that each one is going to take care of each other. Here we go. Wrestling Observer newsletter notes Stone Cold Steve Austin was booked for the KO show at WrestleMania 38 because Austin worried he wouldn't be able to deliver a good match. Once he started training, he became confident he could, and they scripted it for this interview to turn into a match, which is definitely what we saw, which is what I thought exactly what was going to happen. PW Insider says WWE is finalizing plans for his return to Saudi Arabia right now and is looking for the end of October or beginning of November. Rest in peace, Jamal Khashoggi. Ringside News claims WWE has yet to even consider any kind of match plans for SummerSlam this year. They're only a few months away. By June, they need to kind of figure out what the hell they're about to do. These 2 months, you can let it slide, but by June, they kind of have to know where they're going with it. They also say Shotzi hasn't been booked on TV lately because creative just doesn't have anything for her right now, and it sounds like the same thing when it comes to Asuka. According to Fightful Select, New Japan Pro Wrestling has started securing visas for foreign talent for the first time since the pandemic started in 2020. So, New Japan, they're about to start moving around, and they're going to be here. So, not mad at it, and I'm happy about it. On the Wrestling Perspective podcast, Ian Ricciaboni said Ring of Honor had a new logo and new merchandise ready for a full rebrand and launch before Tony Khan brought the company. Hopefully, they just use all the old stuff just for this past pay-per-view, and they're going to move to the newer stuff because all the work has already been done. It already kind of needed a rebrand, and since Tony Khan bought it, might as well have a rebrand. According to Russell Votes, and a show similar to that of Broken Skull Sessions, Peacock and WWE have convinced The Undertaker to enter the podcasting world. Sources state his new show should begin airing within the next few months. It's going to be interesting to see what he talks about. If I had to produce it, I would say him going over his career, him going over the matches that he's done and his feuds with certain wrestlers, having him come in, him inject the snake, talking back and forth. Him and Stone Cold, they could talk about why everything went really bad with Judgment Day, things like that. As long as it stays away from him going, wrestlers back in the day were tough and we all had to have guns because that's what wrestling should be. New Japan Pro Wrestling streaming service NJPW World announced this morning that the streamer will soon have episodes of AEW Dynamite in Rampage. A live Japanese broadcast of All Elite's televised program is also said to be in the work. It's been clarified that this is only for a regional deal for Japan. So hey, they're still in business together, and maybe we might get a AEW versus New Japan Pro Wrestling. We see. Speaking of NJPW, G1 Climax 32 will run from July until August as the round robin tournament this year tourney returns at the same time as it did back in 2020. The first of 20 shows happens in Hokkaido on July 16 to August 18. Staying in Japan, sending love to Shinjiro Otani. During the main event of Sunday's 01 show, Otani was facing the promotion's world heavyweight champion Takashi Sugiura. In the main event, the 49-year-old Otani took a German suplex to the turnbuckle and then was unable to continue the match. He was taken out of the building on a stretcher and rushed to the hospital as fans were asked to leave. During this time period, he has not been able, he's conscious, but he hasn't been able to move any of his limbs, unfortunately. So right now, at this moment, he is paralyzed. Otani is a veteran of the Japanese scene, having worked with New Japan from 1992 until leaving to found 01 with Hashimoto in 2001. He's a former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, a two-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Champ, and a 01 World Heavyweight Champion. In the 90s, he was the first man to hold the WCW Cruiserweight title and the last to hold the UWA version of the WWF Light Heavyweight belt. Sending nothing but prayers and loves to Otani and to his friends and family, and hope that he can have a speedy recovery. Now, since everybody's talking about Ciampa and what's going on with Ciampa better not get squashed for almost at the 3-week push. Anything's possible when it comes to WWE. And then, of course, Keegan Money says Ciampa should let his beard get gray alongside old Edge ass. Gruss says Ciampa will shave his beard and join Ezekiel. I hope not. And with a comment like that, of course, he is the supervillain of the IWC. But let's talk about what's going on tonight in the world of wrestling. Tonight, WWE Raw will air live from the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan, with the latest build for WrestleMania Backlash. They're getting crazy like the bread there. WWE has announced the following lineup for tonight. We have the undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns sending the SmackDown Tag Team Champions to Usos to capture the Raw Tag Team titles from RK Bro to unify them. We have Vera Mahan versus Rey Mysterio, Damian Priest versus AJ Styles. We have a WWE Women's Tag Team Champions Sasha Banks and Naomi will defend against Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. We have Cody Rhodes versus The Miz, and Gruss's favorite person, MVP, and almost discussed Bobby Lashley and addressed the WWE Universe on a special edition of the VIP Lounge. I know Gruss is going to be excited for it. Make sure to tune in to hear what our boy Lalo has to say with the blunt ratings and the reviews of what's going on with Raw tonight. Just looking at the list, it seems like it's going to be pretty decent. Let's say what's going on in here. We got Jeff Hardy will be seriously injured in AEW if he doesn't slow down. No, I agree with that. Right now, they're rushing him. They're trying to get all the spots in. It kind of feels like they kind of know like they're on a short timeline of having him because he's already stated that once his contract is done, he is done. And it seems like they're trying to get all of the greatest hits in. before he's done. But yeah, greatest hits can end to bad injury. So, relax, spread it out a little bit. We don't need TLC matches every week when it comes to Jeff Hardy. He could put on a decent match without it, but Tony Khan is getting his mark pops in. So that's where we are right now. But thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell. And if you weren't here for the live broadcast, write in the comments. I check them daily and I will reply back. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you were here with me. And I thank you for that. And I will see you on Wednesday. Peace.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to know when we go live next. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Wrestling on We, and thanks for watching.